I'm Leonardo Grasso, Projects and Membership Officer at WFTO. WFTO is the global community and verifier of social enterprises that practice fair trade. How did I get in WFTO? I started as communications intern in February 2018. At that time, I was still doing my magistrale course, so the 2 years graduate program. And that was part of it was a curricular internship. It was part of my studies. Then I graduated, I finished my internship, I went back to Italy. I graduated in March last year, 2019. And in July, I went back to WFTO with a full-time job as projects and memberships officer. Just to give a background, a sense of how easy is it to join the WFTO team. So the WFTO team is a very lean team, meaning that there is around 10 people, 15 with interns, depending on the periods, which cover all the work that this membership organization does. So on the one hand, it is easy because as soon as a position gets free, they're going to start looking for somebody that fills that position. But they would normally want somebody with some experience in that position, because each person is quite a key person in the organization, because the finance coordinator is just one person or two people maybe for the whole finance department, for instance. So when we have to change our finance coordinator, we're going to look for somebody that has some experience. But on the other hand, it is also easier to join WFTO through internships, because there is bit of less competition than other international organizations that are more famous, like agencies of the UN, like the FAO, or other huge international NGOs, where there's more candidates and there's more competition. Good morning, everybody. Just to give you maybe an overview of what WFTO is, as I said, a membership organizations. Our members are social enterprises that practice fair trade. They're spread over 76 countries, and they impact about 1 million livelihoods. And it is a whole community of retailers, importers, brands, and producers. So we cover the whole supply chain. Our members are divided in 3 main categories. The first and the majority is fair trade enterprises. So this is, as I said, social businesses that practice fair trade, but their main activity is trading. Then we have fair trade networks that have more of a networking and coordination role. An example is network of fair trade shops, like in Italy, Germany, France, there is World Shops, or Bottega del Mondo in Italian. And then there is fair trade support organizations, which is NGOs that help fair trade enterprises with specific services, which range from product and business development to finance support or other things. And then we have associate organizations, individual associates who demonstrate particular support for fair trade. Just to give you an overview of where our members are, it means that most of them are into fashion and home and living. So most of them do not really produce food. Just about 10% of them is producing solely food. Most of them produce anything that can potentially fall on your foot, and then that can be fair trade. So it means that they produce from home textiles, home decor, furniture, clothes, all sorts of fashion accessories, literally anything you can imagine, from ecological coffins to baby toys. Yeah, this is the vast range of products that our members do. What is my role in this membership organization? So I have 2 hats, so to speak. I have 2 roles in one, and that is due to the fact that it's a very small team, so we often have to carry out activities of different roles at the same time. I will start, so one of them is projects officer. I will go into projects later, but I will start with membership and monitoring. So what makes our members special? So my membership and monitoring work is about verifying that these enterprises are really fair trade. Our certification system, our guarantee system, combines social mission, business mission certification with supply chain certification. So in this slide, you can see how there are other labels that are more oriented towards commodity certification, like Fair Trade International, Fair for Life, other fair trade labels, Rainforest Alliance as well. Or there is the other silver on the right, which is business mission. So labels that certify how much of a social or environmental mission the business has. The most famous one is probably B certified, which is very it's quite widespread in the US as well. But WFTO lays right in between. So on the one side, we verify that the business is really mission-led, mission-driven, and on the other side, we verify that they follow the fair trade practices along the whole supply chain. So just to give you two examples, on the left side, you can see what is examples of commodity or site certifications, and on the right side, there is our model, which focuses more on the whole enterprise. So we do not certify a single product. We do verify that the whole organization, the whole business follows the fair trade practices with all their stakeholders. So from buyers, from their suppliers, workers, producers. So on the left side, when you see the Fair Trade International label, that is very good because it allows mainstream brands like Nestle, for instance, to have, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 product lines which are certified. But the problem, so to speak, is that the certification stops within the farm gates, meaning that the meaning of the label on the left means that the ingredients in that product were sourced from a farm that is certified fair trade. On the right side, when you see our label, it means that the whole organization also the whole organization selling that product follows fair trade practices along the supply chain, not only with the one producers where they source the cocoa, for instance. So just to give 4 easy statistics about our members, the very fact that they're mission-driven enterprises brings them to reinvest 92%, all of their profits in the social mission. This is the results from a study that we recently did a research with the University of York and some other stakeholders, University of Cambridge as well. And these results show how mission-driven our members are, and this is reflected in their practices, meaning, again, they reinvest all of their profit in the social mission. 52% of the CEOs are women, which is quite unusual compared to conventional businesses. And they're 4 times more resilient, less likely to go bankrupt compared to conventional businesses. And 85% of them reported to be willing to set aside financial, profit performance to pursue social environmental goals, still retaining commercial viability. This is only possible because, as I was explaining earlier, the organization is not born to maximize profits, but it's born to address a social mission, and profits are more of a tool to achieve that mission. So the priority always stays the people that the enterprise works for. How do we verify that the practice fair trade? So we do have a standard. The standard is made up by the 10 principles of fair trade. These were developed by our membership itself and experts of the fair trade movement. They include 3 main areas, we could say. The first area is verifying the social mission. So the first principle it's kind of where enterprises can see whether they can become members or not. So if you have a social mission, you can be a member. If you don't, well, that's going to be hard. And the other 2 areas that are verified in our principles are human rights respect, so no discrimination, no child labor, good working conditions, etc. And on the other hand, also trade practices. So we verify that they follow transparency and accountability, that they pay their workers and producers a fair wage, that they do capacity building for them, helping them improve their techniques and skills, and general capacities to run a business. And then there is the last principle on environmental impacts as well. How does an enterprise become a member? So this is really core work of my daily routine, and is very simply an enterprise fills out a self-assessment report, which is just a form where they just say how good or bad they're doing against our standard, against our 10 principles of fair trade. And then the second step is an external verified auditor goes into the field and verifies that what they filled out is actually correct. And then there is a third step, which is a peer visit. This makes our guarantee system quite unique, making it a participatory guarantee system. So the peer visit consists of another WFTO member or fair trade expert identified within our movement that visits the enterprise to give advice on how to better comply with our standard, how to improve environmental or social impacts, and how to move forward in being a better fair trade enterprise. And the last element of our guarantee system is called Trade Accountability Watch, which is a reporting mechanisms for enterprises or the general public whenever they have any concern about the behavior or misconduct of any of our members. So we keep it open as an alarm mechanism. What makes our guarantee system unique? So it combines social enterprise and fair trade verification, which is quite unique in the certification systems internationally today. All the enterprises are independently audited every 4 years, which gives credibility to the system. As I was saying, it's built by grassroots social enterprises to minimize costs. So the peer visit, for instance, is actually our way to also minimize costs by making enterprises improve, not only with the audits, but also just with constructive visits, not auditing visits. And it is a verification system that applies all over the supply chain. So it's for suppliers, distributors, brands, and producers alike. Just to give you an idea of how our product label is, this is how it looks like. So it says guaranteed fair trade. It can be used on all sorts of products because, as I was saying, it's not product specific, but it communicates that the whole enterprise is guaranteed fair trade. So they can just use it on any products produced by them and monitored by them. There is no license fee, differently from other certification systems where there is usually a additional fee based on the consumer price, and it is organization focused. So this was my work as membership and monitoring officer for the Africa region. So just to clarify, I take a look after our members in Africa. So I help them organize the monitoring audits, I help them organize and set up the peer visits, I review the self-assessment reports that they send me, and it's more of an administrative or technical work, you could say. And then I have my other actually main job, which is projects and partnerships. We have a broad range of projects that we carry out with different donors, partners. We have 3 main ones at the moment. The first one is called Made 51. It is a project in partnership with the UNHCR, the UN Agency for Refugees, and it is a project that aims to connect refugee artisans to international markets. So on the one side, there is the Made 51 team that identifies local social enterprises in different countries that are already working with refugees, and they carry out business development and also marketing outreach to help them improve their production processes, their product development, basically to make them have appealing products for the international markets. And also then they connect them to different sales channels. One example is one of the holiday collection that was developed within this project was sold in Virgin Megastore in Dubai, for instance. So we also try to engage not only with fair trade buyers, but also with conventional or commercial buyers, you could call them. And what is the role of WFTO within this project is to bring in the fair trade expertise. So ensuring that the refugees, artisans are working according to fair trade standards. The second main project that we have is Bread for the World. Bread for the World is actually the name of our donor, which is based in Germany. And all of the projects that they're supporting with us aim towards the implementation of our guarantee system, which is what I explained earlier. So part of the money of this project is put towards improving our forms, to make them more accessible for our members, to make it easier to use, to take more value out of all the information that our members give us. The focus of last year was developing the fair payment process. So we did develop some tools that can help our social enterprises to calculate what a local living wage would be for their workers or producers. The interesting thing is that we do not, with this fair payment process, we do not give benchmark numbers on what a living wage should be, but we more give tools for the enterprise to bargain and to discuss what a living wage is directly with their producers. And the last project, which is running out this year, is Trade Fair, Live Fair, which is supported by the European Commission and is within the DR program, which is Development, Education, and Awareness Rising. The whole project aims to develop campaigning on different themes, especially Trade Fair, Live Fair. So how consumption can be fairer and also how trade can be more fair. This project brings together the whole European fair trade movement, including the two biggest families, Fair Trade International, the commodity certificator and a certifier, and WFTO, which is the membership organization. Our role in particular in this project has been the development of a report and a research on gender empowerment. So it was analyzing how women are empowered or sustained within WFTO membership. Some of the results is what I showed you earlier. So 52% of women are CEO. Market access is another big part of my work within the project's work. Just to give you an idea of what kind of market access our members have, there is a network of importers in Europe with a turnover of about 500 million euros that is really committed to sourcing from fair trade enterprises. So we have big importer members, especially in Europe and also in North America, that majorly source from our producer members that are mostly located in the south of the world. And also there are retailers. So these networks, both in North America and Australasia and Europe, include about 1,500 retail points that also actively source from fair trade enterprises. So part of my work is actually trying to move from fair trade importers and fair trade retailers to move more to conventional and also commercial buyers, to bring our members more in the larger market, so to speak. So what we do is capacity building. We develop materials and learning opportunities for our members on all sorts of different topics. It can go from e-commerce to warehouse options, or inventory management, product development, product design. It can be many different things depending on what interest our members express in each topic and on what expertise is already available, as many of these tools, many of these learning materials are just developed in collaboration with members that have more expertise in a certain field, and then they just want to share it with the whole community. Another point of action where we're working quite a lot now to promote our members' market access is our product search. So we developed a product search on our website where businesses looking to source from enterprises that are fair trade, that are ethical, they can find all of our members, they can find their web shop, they can connect with them. And then we're also brokering partnerships with sourcing platforms. some business-to-business sourcing platforms that we are in partnership with. Our common objective, for instance, that gathers experts and different players of the fashion industry to achieve a more sustainable fashion industry. Or there is Connecta, Sourcing Playground, which are all business-to-business ethical sourcing platforms. And then there is business-to-consumer platforms like Avocado Store, which is sort of the German Amazon, the ethical German Amazon, or Fair Shop, or more to go. Last but not least is our participation to trade shows. So another way we promote our members and we give them visibility to buyers and international market is participating to trade shows. The two main ones we participate every year is Ambiente in Germany, which is the biggest consumer products show in the world, probably, if not in Europe. And then New York now in the US, which is similar concept, design and consumer products, mostly homeware and home decor. And this is where we organize different activities, webinars, workshops, conferences, press releases, and we usually get some visibility. We interact with other movements. But I will move next to our response to COVID-19. So how did fair trade social enterprises react to COVID? Well, as you can imagine, they were impacted just as other businesses. So key issues that emerge from some of our surveys are, well, interrupted supply of raw materials. So it was just very hard for them to source the raw materials that they needed to produce with. During lockdown, of course, it was most often not possible to access their production premises. A huge problem was order cancellations. So many fair trade importers in Europe and North America, which I mentioned earlier, are quite relying on physical shops like the world shops. So when the world shops and physical retailer closed, there were many order cancellations from importers as well. And then the last thing is impossibility to export, very simply. So even if they were able to produce, and even if there were no order cancellations for a while, and even now in some countries, it's just impossible to export. So we identified priorities to solve this kind of highlight issues that our members had. The first one is support online and domestic sales. So as it is harder to export and to sell to physical shops, one thing is support online and domestic sales. The second thing is support fundraising capacity and opportunities. So help our members to actually become better at fundraising themselves, to find investors, donors, or anybody willing to financially contribute and invest in them. And then the last thing is engaging with commercial buyers more. How they reacted to all of this, they started collaborating nationally to seek support in their own country, as in some countries support for small and medium enterprises may become available. They're seeking also arrangement, of course, to defer loan payments and find easier financial conditions with their banks. And many of them have actually turned to producing masks, so face masks. The initiative started within Asian members, then it moved to African members, and now it's within the whole WFTO community. Some others also produce soaps or other pandemic-related products. And many of them have launched crowdfunding initiatives. How did WFTO, like our office, support its members in all of this? So first thing, we created and launched the web shop search. So we had a product search, but this was not linked to our members' web shops. So what we added is this aspect. So our members can now put the link to their web shop, and there is a specific page where also final consumers can go and access and search for different products and actually buy them directly from their shop. And then we also launched the Stay Home Live Fair campaign to promote these shops. This campaign has been overlapping with other campaigns that we planned before. So we had our biggest campaign every year is World Fair Trade Day, which is on the second Saturday of May every year. And this year it was going to be focused on planet fair trade, so it had more of an environmental focus. But of course, this had to be merged with the Stay Home Live Fair campaign. But the Stay Home Live Fair continues to run and continues to grow. Another activity that we carried out is launching Instagram live sessions. So we started engaging with especially key people in the fashion industry. This is particularly directed to commercial buyers in the fashion industry, or in this case, in this image, you can see Caterina Occhio. She's founder and owner of one of our members in Italy, which is See Me. They produce fair trade jewelry. And yeah, these live sessions are just easy chats with, in this case was Arizona Muse, who is like a model. So we're trying to gain more visibility on social media as well to engage commercial buyers. And the last thing we're doing, and we keep doing in these weeks, and we're gonna keep doing over the next months, is approaching donors, social finance institutions, and also engage new commercial buyers. Finally, we developed webinars with experts. So our members, we carried out surveys within our membership to see what their priorities were, like what are the topics where they feel weakest, where do they have to improve. So as I mentioned earlier, one of them was fundraising. So we have a consultant expert that provides training to WFTO in different circumstances. And in this case, she gave a webinar on fundraising and how our members become more professional in engaging new donors. Another interesting webinar we had is with fair trade importers. So this was more to start a conversation between the producer members of WFTO and the importing members, just still in the perspective of keeping up the transparency within our movement. Eventually, it is also one of our principles to be transparent, and to communicate. So in this case, they were just answering simple questions as like, when are the fair trade stores going to open? How are online sales going? What are the strategies that one member is adopting instead of another? And what happens when orders are cancelled, and if there's ways to mitigate that. And then we started also some more webinars on specific industries or specific product categories. In this case, homeware is very trendy and it's on the eye of sustainability as well now. So we started that one. What are the perks and challenges of my work? To conclude this presentation, well, it's always really stimulating and motivating to work for WFTO. I would say the main thing that I would mention is that it is a job which I believe in. It is a real grassroots community of really committed social enterprises. So yeah, when I wake up in the morning, I know that what I'm gonna do during the day is assumably gonna impact somebody positively. Regarding the WFTO itself, it is a small team. As you say, this is us in Peru last year, where we held the 15th International Fair Trade Summit, gathering the whole fair trade movement. This happens every 2 years, but as you can see, we're not many, which means there is a lot of work to do daily. You need to be really flexible in covering all different areas or any kind of new thing that comes up, and they're like, hey Leo, do you want to do it? And I'm like, of course I have to do it. But it's also really stimulating. It's a lot of work, but a lot of learning. So the learning side is continuous. It's also the diversity of the project that we have underlined that, and the diversity of the members that we have. So they produce all sorts of products. They're set up in all sorts of ways. Some are private companies, some are cooperatives, some are just networks, some only do advocacy, some produce something, and yeah, they can be very, very diverse. So yeah, that also brings in some cultural diversity, which I also find really motivating and personally stimulating. And the positive side as well is that I'm networking, I'm building a network with, well, the fair trade movement itself, so our members, I'm getting to know them, but also I'm connecting with yeah, the sustainability movement more in general, I would say. Simply participating to conferences or going to specific events. Yeah, and that's the part of my job which I really, really like, is the networking side, the interacting, the keeping the conversations alive with people. The hard side of all of this is planning your workload and managing your time. So finding the right setup in that sense. When I came in 2018 in February, there was also a new chief executive that came in at the same time as me. And since then, I've seen a huge growth of the organization, because as it was earlier, you probably kind of never heard of WFTO before, or you just maybe heard about it, but it's not as famous as Fair Trade International, right? Because it's not so widespread in the mainstream market. It was quite confined within just business to business markets, or it was kind of a private club, an exclusive club. We're not interacting as much with other movements or thought leaders, or we didn't have this fresh look and fresh, how to say, dynamic strategy that I think we have now. We were less focused on engaging buyers, for instance, or so a lot of changes happen now, which I think if we keep it up the way we're doing, yes, I see a lot of potential of growth. But when I say potential of growth, it means two things. On one side, our membership can grow, so we can have more members. And when our membership grows, then we can also support more staff, more personnel, because all of our core costs, so the personnel costs, is covered by membership fees for our members. So it is quite like we can grow as much our membership can grow. And we do not want to be dependent on donors' money, so that our objectives and strategies and priorities remain focused on providing a service to social enterprises. For my career personally, anyway, I think it's my first job really, and I love what I'm doing, and I plan to stay few more years, but also I think it will be healthy at some point to maybe change and do something different. Who knows? What I was not really so much aware of before coming into the sustainability world, so to speak, or the certifiers, is that, well, there's a few very famous organizations, like anything from the UN, of course, but also Fair Trade International is the most known certifier for fair trade. But within this, there is a whole spectrum of social enterprises that are really interesting to me. And there is also a whole spectrum of sustainability organizations, like even small consultancy firms that are really focused on specific themes of sustainability. Some can be more on food, some can be more on human rights due diligence, some can be more on just fair trade, some can be more on organic. But there is a whole spectrum and of different organizations that have less competition, but that are sometimes even more interesting and more, I'd say there is more substance there. There is less of an image, maybe they're less famous, but sometimes their values, they can be more committed, or their work can be actually very serious and very well done. So my general suggestion is, do not just keep one or two or three famous organizations in mind, but to go out there and search a bit what is available, what is the projects that these organizations have, what is the key topics in the sustainability world as well. I mean, you're all focused on food, and now I'm also really focused on food generally, but in this case I moved a bit from there. So I still deal with some food members, but these values, our fair trade principles, do not apply to food only. They apply to any kind of business. It's just the vision of a different economy populated by mission-driven enterprises rather than profit-driven enterprises. So very simply putting people and planet first. Joining WFTO for me was such a good entry door in this world because, as I was saying, the competition to entry was not super high. I was just in the right moment, in the right place at the right moment. But then from here now I'm building such a great experience on all sorts of topics and activities and tasks that later I can just spend potentially anywhere in this world of sustainability. So those small organizations are more interesting, easier to get in, you learn a lot. And yeah, what I find in WFTO is that I have space for my own creativity, for my own entrepreneurial spirit. It feels more personal, you can put more into it. The hardest part is just really workload planning. So it's both of a challenge, but also interesting to solve as a challenge because it's really useful for my growth, I think. So it's, yeah, as I said, the diversity of tasks that come to you is just insane. So they like one day and they're like, oh, now you have to develop a whole impact report for our members. And I'm like, okay. And the day after is like, oh, now you have to, I don't know, it can be all sorts of different things. And then you have to put all sorts of different things within your to-do list and then manage these within the limited time that you have to work, right? I work supposedly 36 hours per week. I always end up overworking a bit, but this is the hardest part, to not overwork as well, because especially at this stage of my career, I often feel like I want to do more and more and more. I never want to say no, but it's good to keep a balance there. But on the other hand, I'm young, so most of the time I just keep saying yes, and I like to take challenges in and new things to do. But otherwise, my team is really good, like really easy to work with, really open-minded, really professional, really serious, but also really relaxed, like not really grumpy or anything. There's always a smile on their face. They're just really committed. So yeah, really few negative things, I would say, just more about my own growth. Well, that depends on how much I put in there, how much energy. But for sure, for instance, already now I see some growth because when I just started, I had just had few responsibilities. Now I'm completing like whole project reports on my own. So this is part of learning, not really changing position, but later on. So like my direct supervisor had my role before I had it, and now she has another role, which is partnerships manager. So she did grow a little bit, meaning she changed positions. She probably has a little bit of a higher salary, and her responsibilities are different. But yeah, there is definitely opportunity for growth, but it's more, I would more call it opportunity for specializing. Because if you talk about growth as salary increase, well, there is not so much space in there for that. So also the reason why I'm doing this job is because I like it, not because of the pay, to be perfectly honest. And why is that? Is because, as I was saying, all of our core costs are covered by membership fees, who are social enterprises supporting marginalized producers, which means that we need to pay the staff just as much as needed for them to have a decent living. So the salaries are not huge. They're just kept quite minimal in a sense to keep costs low for this grassroots organization. So in terms of career growth, well, you cannot expect anything close to what you have in an agency from the UN. If you're looking for high salary and a big name, then yes, then the UN is your place. But I don't know. Yeah, there's not much growth in that sense. There's more personal growth and professional growth for sure. When you take more responsibilities, or when you're just very simply engaging more projects, that's already some investment you're doing for your future, right? Because when I'm more involved into a new project, then I'm gonna start interacting with other project partners, and these project partners can come from other organizations, from also the UN, or other businesses, or thought leaders, or many other contacts that you can build there as well. So, and then you can also prove your value in those projects or in those activities. So the responsibility can rise quite a bit. Yeah, quite a lot. Also because it's a small team. So at some point, if you're gonna be the person, if I'm gonna keep dealing with projects, at some point I'm gonna have most of the project work under my wings. So I'm gonna be the projects manager at some point, from projects officer to projects manager. Thank you, everyone, and good luck with everything for your future.